Hello, everybody. Welcome to Patriot James Talk Show tonight. We got two special guests coming in here tonight, and I hope you paid attention to the post because we got a flathead specialist in the house with us. But before we start that, let's say God bless America. God bless you and your families. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. And among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And tonight, our happiness is going to be talking about Mr. Flathead Catfish. Mr. Micheal Murphy and Brian Mayo, thank y'all for coming in tonight.
Good to be here.
We're going to do a couple little shout outs to some people that come in and support our channels right quick before we get on the road. Mr. Ernie Brown, Fishing with a Squirrel, Mike Sampson, Chrissy Brown. There's Ernie Brown again, Chrissy. There's Crosses is in here. I don't know if that's both of them or one of them. Mike Sampson. There'll probably be a Mike Simpson in here. That's a Dakota, and I'm per year. If I'm saying your name wrong, please don't shoot me. I apologize for that. I do butcher a few names here and there. Creole's in the house. Creole fishes the daggum Mississippi down around the lower part of the waters. I think he was in here last time, Brian, when y'all was in here. John Patriot.
Louisiana.
Yeah, around Louisiana. Carolina Catfish. Right. Yeah, he's in Louisiana. We got, who else we got in here?
Fishing with the Chad.
Oh, there's Chad's in here. Yeah.
There's Squirrel.
Okay. Oh, good. I forgot you could see Chad. Y'all using the
You're
using your computer. If you're using a cell phone, you can't see it.
Thomas Little Page.
Little Page, not Little
You
John.
said Little John.
Yeah.
You've been watching too much Robin Hood when ain't nobody around.
Oh, yeah. I don't watch TV no more. I hadn't in 4 years. So there's Brian Swink. Ryan Swink, he's a good friend of mine. Lori Mayo's in the house.
I know her.
You think so? Does she claim you?
She better.
There's Glenn's.
Hey, it took her 30 years to train me, man.
There you go. The Cross family, and there's Mark Anthony, Nebraska Wildcats. All right, guys and gals, we thank you for coming in and supporting this channel. Hope you're going to learn something tonight. Pay attention. We're getting ready to get started. Favorite fish and chasing, Mr. Micheal Murphy, is the flathead.
Yes, sir. 100%.
Well, we're going to ask you a few of the basic questions everybody's probably going to want to know first. We'll start it out with the controversy. Would that be mono or braid?
Definitely braid on the Mississippi River.
Do you tie your mono leaders though?
I do. I tie to a three-way swivel most of the time. Sometimes the structure dictates, but the way I travel and move around and the different stuff I'll fish in a day, I could be tying rigs all day and not fishing. So the basic three-way swivel is my go-to.
Okay. So basic three-way swivel. So you got your weight hanging off the bottom. It's basically like a single hook Kentucky rig and a weight.
That's right. I got two separate leaders. I usually use a 60-pound leader to my weight and an 80-pound leader to my hook so that weight will break loose, because there's a many good fish get caught that come up without a weight on.
Oh yeah. It's and when I tie them like that, a Kentucky rig or whatever you want to call them, I always tie a lightweight swivel at the bottom, simply because in rocky areas you can count on that daggum sinker getting hung up in the rocks. So,
oh yeah,
and that's good advice. Now, what rods and reels you using?
I use that heavy action D&M pole, and I've got several reels, but my go-to is the 7,000 Garcia.
Yeah, no. You might see him in here tonight. You might not, because he's at work. He's a paramedic Wampus cat. Now he loves the 7,000. He likes them. But one thing, it's got more line on it. But the main thing is that it's got more drag than the 6,500s.
Right. I appreciate that drag, but that line capacity keeps you from re-spooling nearly as often. I can make it a couple of seasons off a good full spool.
Right. It's Now, when you in that heavy cover and stuff like that, are you more apt to lock your drags down to get them fish turned and up out of there before you ever loosen it up to fight the fish?
When I am in the heavy cover, I do. And I try to be smart about it. And if the cover's not too bad, I back off the drag. That lock drag has cost me more fish
Yes,
than it's gotten me in the boat. It will certainly cost me a lot of fish.
exactly right. I think a lot of people think you need all of that heavy drag, but once that hook's buried up, as long as you can get him out away from the cover, lighten up on that drag, guys and gals, because he's right. These new hooks, a lot of them's tough, but some of them I see get broke at the boat when that fish makes that last good hard lunge. It'll break line too. So let your daggum rod and reel do the job it was designed to do. Now, you are a river fisherman.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mike's Outdoors. Before we go too much further, guys and gals, everybody knows that every dime that comes into this channel goes to Cap Centurion Veterans Home. I appreciate any donations that's coming in. That tournament I got coming up, Michael, is it's basically a charity tournament. We're raising money for Camp Centurion here in North Carolina. It's going to be a rehabilitation home for veterans to help get them back out in life. So
Good,
you see
good
this
for
thing
y'all.
come up. It's dear to my heart. So that's what we're working on. Thank you for donating, guy. Back to it. So you're a river rat. That's what you run up and down the rivers.
Yep, my daddy sent me out there on that river to get me out of his hair when I wasn't much more than 11, 12 years old.
So when you say, if I take all your electronics away and say, go out there and take me flathead fishing, what would be the first thing that you look for that would drive you to say, I'm going to set up right here because I know there's a fish here? Take me on that and teach me a little bit of what you're looking for.
I'm looking for slow water, close to fast water, and anything sticking out. Any piece of structure sticking out of the water. If I got no electronics, I'm looking for a tree, a brush top, a stump, a cut in the bank that'll hold it. You spend enough time out there, you figure out where stuff piles up. And anytime you can find that cut in the bank and there's some stiff water next to it, you can bet there's going to be some trash down there somewhere.
Right. I hear a lot of guys talking about fishing the outside edges of the, what do y'all call that? The breaks that sticks out in the water.
The wing dams?
Wing dams. I had a brain fart. Sorry about that.
Yeah. We call them hot dots, but
right.
Wing dams.
I hear some talking about fishing that edge right down through there, drifting down through there, bumping and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they're dangerous trying to set up on them because of the current that comes around them rascals. But I never heard anybody really talk about, and I think me and you talked about this, Brian, that front corner up there in that front little corner up there in the front of the dam, right against the bank. People don't realize there's also an eddy that forms right there. I've learned that from being a gold miner running a sluice box. You also have an eddy in the front of them dams that will create and capture debris and brush right there. I just wonder if it's because it's too dangerous to set up and try to fish something like that, or could you set up way up ahead of it and drift baits back down to it?
Well, current always dictates, obviously, how you can set up. And I really prefer to catch those with the water right on top of the rock dam and hopefully get a boat on the bank. I do a lot. I'll probably anchor up 50% of the time. I'll put the boat on the bank to catch the big fish.
Daggum right. The reason being?
That's where he is, and that makes it easy and safe. And I don't like pulling anchors. 50 plus
Oh, yeah.
years old. If I don't have to pull an anchor, I'm not going to pull an anchor.
I hate pulling them freaking anchors, but hey, sometimes you just have to. So what is that, guys and gals that are bank fishermen? What did this man just teach you? What did he teach you? You don't have to sling to the middle of the waters to catch big fish. Sometimes they might not be but 2 foot right out in front of you. Because my biggest flathead come about 2 foot off the bank and about 2 foot of water.
I can pretty much second that motion.
What is your biggest flathead?
60 pounds.
Ooh, that's a pig. That son of a gun's got a big old freaking head on him.
Beautiful fish. Almost about from my chin to the floor.
Oh, see. And you ain't a short man either, are you?
I'm about 5'11".
There you go. So that's a big fish. I love bank fishing as much as I do boat fishing. So, you know, and even in cold weather, guys and gals, January last year, I caught was 35-pound blue, but it wasn't about 15 foot off the bank. All the other rods was out there in the river channels, and I had it on a little old short 5.5 foot rod, and I just pitched it right out there, a little old 5,000. And that's the only freaking rod that got hit all day long. And I had cut shad out all day, and I decided to change it up and put a piece of cut brim on that rascal, and that's the one that got hit. So don't throw towards the center all the time. Make sure you put some against the freaking banks, everybody.
I don't believe there's any time of the year that you can't catch shallow fish and deep fish, because they do cycle out. Even during spawn, they will cycle out. The smaller flatheads, the 10 to 20 pound range flatheads, when the big boys get ready and the big girls get ready to spawn, they have to move out of the way.
Oh,
and
yeah.
One of the best days I had last year, I think I boated 16 flatheads in one trip, and they came between 30 and 45 foot deep water.
Really?
In June.
Really?
I wouldn't believe it till it happened, but it happened. So now I know something. I'm learning something every day.
Thank you. That's what this is all about. That's what this show's all about. What did you find there that attracted you to make you want to fish for the flatheads in that deep of water?
Well, just to be honest, which I'm fairly honest, brutally honest.
That's all I asked for.
I couldn't make a flathead bite, so I got mad and backed out and tried to catch a blue cat. And all I had was live bait, and there they were.
Was they piled up on structure?
Yep, right on the end of a rock dike. Right on the end, right next to the hard current, just like you'd fish for a blue cat.
Just when you think you got them figured out, huh?
Just when you think you got them figured out.
That's why we
when you
keep
think you
coming
know it
back.
all, you get shot down.
Yeah. Well, everything
Yeah,
you know it all.
Hey, some days we just get humbled, don't we?
We do. I get humbled almost every time I go.
So that's good information right there, because I've heard of some people catching on. I've never caught one in deeper water. I think the deepest water I've caught one's like 15 to 17 foot, drifting across a deeper flat that has some stumps and stuff in it, but never that deep. That's pretty freaking deep. I never would have anticipated that.
They will tend to act like the rest of you game fish, which I do consider a flathead game fish.
Yes, sir.
When that water gets real muddy, they're going to get real shallow. As that water starts to clear up, they backing out in deeper water. When it gets too clear, I quit because I can't make one bite in it.
I got a question to ask you. Now, wintertime, I go shallow. If the water's around 48 to 50 degrees, I'm in 4 to 2 foot of water. And now we're lake fishing now, so this is not river. Right. the reason everybody says, well, that shallow water warms up faster, but I've sat there all day long and that water might warm up 1 degree. But to me, and you might confirm this or tell you, oh no, you crazy and crap, is the UV rays. I think that they're getting up there like an old turtle climbing up on a stump or on a log and letting that sun heat their bodies up, not necessarily the water.
There's probably a lot of truth to that.
Okay. I like to try to confirm some of the things that I wonder about. You know, I wonder out loud sometimes, and people might think I'm crazy, but hey, if you don't ask, you'll never know. I don't believe there's a stupid question to be asked. Let's see if we got any.
Now, when it comes to yellow cat when the water temperature is 45 degrees, chances are I'm deer hunting.
Okay.
I don't have much luck with them when it gets below probably 57, 58 degrees. I usually wrap it up.
Okay. Now, for some reason this year we've been able. What I haven't, my dovetail ain't got a chance to go yet. But I've been seeing local guys catching the flatheads all year long here, and the water actually got colder this year than it did last year. Our lake's turning into a good flathead lake. It really is. I'm seeing it grow more and more and more flatheads. And I don't know if it's because there's more people fishing on this lake now for cats than what at previous years, or if the flatheads are making a heck of a run at it. I don't know. Are there any kind of advice that you think that we can meet in the middle as far as the way you approach them on the river as the way we approach them on a lake?
I don't know. They're going to use certain travel routes close to that swift moving water in a river. They're probably going to use structure to travel in your lakes. I think they travel with structure in the rivers very similar to that. Right. And they move. I've graphed areas at one part of the day, no fish, and come back later full of fish. And they're definitely using structure as a travel route, whether it's heavy cover line along the bank or drop off ledge, coming in and out of deeper water. They'll definitely travel certain patterns. That's about as close as I can get to lake fishing.
Right. Do you think that the flatheads would, and this is something I've been curious, there's Mr. Melhorn in the house. It's something I've been curious about, and I'd love to get on a boat that has one of those live scopes simply because I just wonder how many flatheads use old boat docks and any kind of floating stuff where they can get under or around. Do you think that they'll use those stuff?
And anywhere they can find a shady spot.
Yeah, any cover. Hey, Michael Creech wants to know, what's your favorite flathead bait, Mr. Michael?
I'm probably going to upset a few folks, but my favorite flathead bait is a largemouth bass, about 14 inches long.
Yes. Yes. So it's legal where you're at.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
If you catch it on
hook, as part of the creel, catch it on hook and line, right?
Right. You got it, and you can't have more than your possession limit with you.
Right. Right.
So if they're biting real good, I got to take a lot of folks fishing with them.
There you go. And I'm gonna ask you this because this is something I believe in. Do you think that there's more a seasonal bait? This year I'm getting ready. I'm gonna target flatheads specifically all year. Now, if I catch blues and channels, that's what it is. That's just the nature of the beast. But I'm gonna just strictly hunt the flatheads. But I'm going to use for bait, and I might be wrong. Maybe you can correct me. I'm going to use what is spawning. If crappie's spawning, I'm throwing crappie. If brim's spawning, I'm throwing brim. When the bass, of course, right now the bass, they should be headed to the banks anytime. That's going to be my specific bait when that comes due. Do you think it makes a difference?
I personally think size matters in this case more than anything else. Sometimes they want them small, and sometimes they want them big. Sometimes they won't hit a little one, and sometimes they won't touch a big one. The 60-pound.
We got a couple questions asking about rattles.
Yeah,
Demon dragons or rattles or anything online.
I swap them in and out. I usually fish 4 poles, and I'll have the demon dragon, the homemade demon dragons on 2, and not on the other. Some of my bigger fish probably have come with a demon dragon on there, so there's going to be at least 2 of them out at all times. I do believe in that rattle. I do believe it'll get you hung up. I do believe it'll cause a break off. It'll fray your line. And that's always something to think about. If I'm throwing in super heavy cover, I'm going to use a short leader, and it will not have a rattle.
Now, see, I don't know if you're like me. I learned real quick. I put my demon dragon or whatever I use, some kind of rattle, real close to my hook. I see a lot of people put them away from their hook, but I've had my floats and I've had them peg floats get tore all to pieces because the catfish is hitting the float with the rattles on it or hitting the demon dragons. I thought, now I ain't no dummy. They gonna hit that demon dragon. They gonna hit it with a hook in it.
Oh, there's no doubt that sight incites them. Sound excites them.
Yeah, I started using one of the bobber stop, the little bobber stoppers that the crappie fishermen use. I use that bobber stopper at the end to keep it from sliding up down the line, because I believe I lost. I'm sure I lost my best fish, my personal best last year, because I wasn't paying attention to that float sliding up down the line and wearing on.
Right. I use electrical tape. You know, I run it through the one eye and then across and back out the other eye. I don't tie a bunch of knots. And then I just take a piece of electrical tape and wrap around it to lock it in place.
And that's good too. I bought a roll of that towards the end of last year after that fish got me.
Yeah, you're right, because sliding up and down, especially if you're fishing in current, I'm sure it can wear on them lines, especially if you're using braid. Yeah.
Well, that's on the mono. That's on that mono leader.
Oh, that's right. You told me you use mono.
It's on an 80-pound mono leader, but you know, if you periodically, you really got to keep an eye on that, because it always. I had 4 sets out, brand new. 3 of them were brand new. Which one did the fish hit? The one that I failed, that I didn't retie.
Murphy's Law.
Murphy's Law. It's always in effect, right? It's always in effect.
Now, do you ever use shad or skipjack or whatever?
I have caught some on fresh skipjack. If I was lucky enough to find skipjack that morning, and we'll use it. And shad, no. I have fished shad plenty for blue cat, but I have never thrown a piece of shad out for a flathead, just to be honest.
The reason I asked that is because I know Chris Souders uses a good bit of the big gizzards, but you got to have a good live well to keep them rascals alive. They are tough to keep alive.
Yeah,
I think that's, a shad's tough anyway to keep alive, and from what I understand, you want a very lively fish. It's hard to beat an old largemouth or a spot. There's some lively fish, man. They love it. Now, you tell me if you do a trick that I use. If I got, here in North Carolina, we can use 2 fish under legal limit, which is 14 inches. So we can have 5 fish, but 2 of them could be any length. That means 2 under. Okay. If I get, say, a 10-inch or below that, what I'll do is cut the bottom part of his tail off, and I do my big brim and bluegill like that too, and that'll make them stand up.
Okay,
that'll make them, because their top tail fins always
flopping back and forth. Well, they don't have that bottom fin to bring them level. So they're always swimming upright, and they'll fight that the whole time. So if you don't do that, try that technique next time you go out. But you don't want to be real close to, him wiggling around. Of course, you know that wiggling around, he's gonna get into something.
Ryan wants to know, how big of a fish do you land and then change your line because of line stretch?
I inspect the line and for any roughness or anything that doesn't look right, and change it out. Believe me, change it out, because laziness has cost me more fish than anything.
Yeah.
Take those 2 digits, run down that line. If you feel a bad spot, if it feels odd, feels thin in one spot, change it. Takes 2 minutes.
And watch that knot. You got to eyeball that knot, because the knot's the weakest link in the whole thing. And you really got to watch that knot. If the line feels good, snip it off, retie it.
You daggum right. I use a Uni Knot and not the clinch knot, but the what's that knot
Palomar.
you put on your freaking hook? No,
Palomar.
The one you put on your hook.
Palomar.
No, I don't. I usually. No, it ain't a Palomar hook.
Improved.
Freaking no knot.
No hook. Name knot.
Snail.
Yeah, the snail hook. Thank you. Brain fart from crap tonight. But
Brian has to help you out. You're in trouble.
Oh yeah, we all. Well, at least if we got 3 brain cells amongst us through, we might get through this tonight.
Maybe.
We ain't got Cam here leading us around.
I learned from an old bass fisherman that's been around fishing all his life. In fact, Hank Parker's one of his best friends. They called him the Blade Man. Is the Uni Knot. It is, and if you look it up, it is probably one of the least evasive knots on fishing line. And it's simple to tie. I can tie that thing in the dark with my eyes shut. It's very simple, but it puts the least amount of stress on the line of any knot out there. Plus, you can tie a double Uni Knot to tie a mono to braid. That's what most people do. And if you'll look at it, a lot of saltwater fishermen, that's the knot that they use. They use it for a reason. So try it next time. Look up your knots. What is your favorite knot? Your go-to knot?
I use a snail and a Palomar, depending on where I'm tying it at.
Right.
And I can change that Palomar knot around where they show you to get a better hookup on a fish. I tie mine backwards so that I don't get hung up on the logs.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So it triggers backwards instead of forwards.
That's right. I will do that. I have learned that I don't miss any more fish than from one to another, but I do miss more logs one way.
There you go. that is and it's going to happen, guys and gals. It's going to happen. So don't steer away from it just because you don't want to lose tackle. It's going to happen.
If you ain't losing tackle yellow catfishing, you ain't yellow catfishing. That's just the nature of the beast.
You ain't willing to lose tackle, you better stay at home on the couch.
Correct, because I lose a ton of tackle, and I fish super heavy line and bend spools and break rods with snags, and but that's just the name of my game. It's pure power.
Well, I've got something that I've been working on, and I've been trying to find somebody that's actually got a bass boat now and knows how to run a trolling motor real good. But I think, and I've seen it done with people out on some of these rocky rivers, floating down rivers, and they're pitching big jigs, catching flatheads around boulders and big rock dams and stuff like that. I think it can be done. I think that's the next flathead. Do you?
I got some, and it's gonna happen this year.
I
got some of them big jigs, and I've got to catch one on an artificial bait. Now I might not catch but one and say I did it and I'm through with it.
Right.
But I really enjoy watching that pole from the front of my boat with my feet propped up.
Oh yeah.
I did all
do
that
too.
during the bass fishing days. I
Yeah.
did all that, but I've got to do it. I got to make it happen.
Yes, I do too. That's just a question that's in my mind, and until I get it answered, what's my favorite saying, people? You don't know till you throw.
I'm gonna catch one on the top water bait.
Hey, this guy, he ain't in here tonight. He will be on Panfish Weekly. I seen him advertise. He's down on Santee Cooper, and he fishes real shallow water stump fields, pulling planer boards, freelining, no weights. And his baits are on top of the water. He's got a video of a 50-pound plus blue cat grabbing about a 1 pound brim off the surface of the water. His daddy was at the front of the boat about asleep, and he said it woke him up, scared him to death. Sounded like somebody thrown an alligator, because they got alligators down there. Said he thought an alligator was going to climb up in the boat with him. It shook the boat when he hit it so hard. So, yeah, I'm like you. I'll believe they'll grab something off the surface.
Oh, look, one of the biggest catfish I've ever seen on the Mississippi River. Must have been 13, 14 years old. We were putting trot lines out in high water, and we were baiting with some brim, and I tossed one up towards the bank because I thought he was dead. He may have had a little wiggle left in him or not, but a blue cat rolled up against that bluff bank and ate it. And I got to watch him do it right by me, and it was the biggest fish I ever laid eyes on.
You know, I've seen videos over England that's got all those whale cats or whatever they call them, and it shows them things grabbing pigeons and stuff that's coming down around them bridges getting water. They'll grab them right against the bank. And, you know, that old fish ain't much different than a flathead. It's just a flathead with an eel tail on him.
That's it. I guarantee he'll come to the top deep, whatever's moving.
Baby ducks, it don't matter. I believe he'll grab it. Now, you think during spawn time, do you think them flatheads come up there lurking around them beds picking off easy prey?
Oh, yeah. I think that them big females will hit them because they're mad at them.
Oh, yeah.
I think you got to aggravate them. That's the way I approach it. I want to try to get in there tight enough and close enough just to make him mad. And I swear I think that top water prop bait would do it.
My favorite color, because like you said, flatheads and dingy water, I'll throw black. All black. Black buzz bait.
Yeah.
I'll throw black blaze, black skirt, the whole freaking works. That's my demon dragons. Every demon dragon I got, I painted black because I fish dingy water.
Exactly.
Black cast a shadow. It just does. So
that's just common sense. That black shows up against that muddy water. But I do want me some colored like a largemouth bass, because they do like them largemouth bass.
They love them. Called 70-pound flathead on that's Justin Fishing Fetish on a 1/2 ounce black and red pig and jig. Yes. And if Justin Fishing Fetish tells that, I know it's to be true. Now, I've caught tons of catfish back in my bass fishing days.
Oh, yeah.
But the waters back then didn't have flatheads in them. They do now, but they didn't then. So, but one question. Do you think that the channel catfish and a flathead catfish have a lot of mannerisms that are the same? Because I found out now the same lake that I'm fishing, North Carolina, South Carolina can't get together. So neither one of them stock flat catfish. The fishermen actually stocked that lake. But now my old channel cat holes where we caught the bigger channels at, now there's flatheads there.
That's because the flatheads eat channel cats. The channel cats can't stay there.
Top of the food chain.
Food chain. Right.
Well, they got
racing
fuel in
gas
their
on my
tank.
mind.
They getting fuel in their tank. But I did notice that the larger channel cats loved and preferred structure.
They love brush
shallow
top.
water structure.
Yep.
And that, to me, that's the way flatheads are. Now, do you use? Thank you, Hillbilly. Do you use catfish for bait?
I have used, and I got quite a couple of really good resources for some polywide catfish. And I just hadn't had the luck on them I have with the brim, the bass, the goggle eyes, which goggle eyes are great. I mean, they stay there forever. But I just hadn't. I don't know that I've ever caught a fish on one of them. To be honest.
I know some guys that use channel cats, and they actually have good luck. And I hear a lot of people talk about using the bullheads. And Lake Wiley at one time had bullheads in it. I haven't seen a bullhead come out of there in many a freaking year. They're lively baits. They bleed real good if you cut them, but we've used them quite a few times and hadn't had any luck at all on them.
Look, they're not worth the chance of me getting stuck by one of them.
I'm telling you what.
That's rough.
Yeah. Yeah.
I spend more time fooling with them than I do fishing whenever I got them because I'm about half scared of getting stuck.
I got a scar right there. I don't know, you can't see it on the camera. And the scar's on the backside too. One of them little old about an 8-inch long channel cat. My tail, he went to wiggling. I locked down. When I locked down, it was in the wrong position, son. It come out the backside.
Then you got
that rascal stayed sore for a while.
There ain't much worse. There's not much worse.
No. That's the size. Now, if I'm going to eat catfish, that's the size I like. About 6, 8, 10 inches, no bigger than 10 inches long. Now, they'll pain in the tail to clean. But, son, I'll pile the bones high, son. I'll pile the bones high.
They do eat good, don't they?
Yeah, don't they? Now, when I'm saying that, the reason I said that was to bring up something. I've never eat a flathead. I've heard so many people talk about it's like a delicacy. Do you ever eat any of the flatheads?
Oh, they're horrible. I don't even put them over my boat. No, they do eat pretty good.
Now, the reason I'm asking is that I know us three right here we catch, take pictures, and release them. And like you said earlier, and I'm getting ready to bring that up and let you talk a little bit about it, of releasing the fish. Do you think that there's a time for selective harvesting of fish? The reason I'm asking, because some lakes, if you'll notice, if we start releasing all the big fish and then all fish, we start releasing all fish, when it seems like when those bigger fish start dying out, you start getting smaller and smaller, larger numbers.
Right. But
smaller and smaller fish.
So, yeah, there's definitely room for, in the deep freeze for some fish. And in our world, it's got to turn over. Everything has to turn over. So, yeah, there's some fish that need to come out from time to time to give them room to grow big. You put too many goldfish in a goldfish bowl, and they stay little bitty goldfish.
Right. There you go. So, I think it was Miss Candace Pitt said something about you telling lies.
Uh-oh.
Who's she talking to?
I don't know if she was talking. She said Michael.
Oh, damn.
Now, do you know Candace Pitts?
I do.
Okay. I was making sure she might have been talking to a Michael in chat, and I just missed what was said.
Probably not.
Okay.
Hey, real quick, Grayson Barnett wants to know how to catch wintertime catfish on the Mississippi River. Give me a call, I'll show you. No, man. Look, it's all about Michael over here tonight and Yellow Cat. But get with me and we'll discuss it, and I'll tell you what I know. I'll tell you what I've been taught.
How about that? She can actually go back and watch the show that we had you and your daughter on here and learn a little bit about what you talked about on there. But tonight we're going to try to bear down on some flatheads because that's kind of an elusive creature that we all really like to catch. If you get on here and you say you don't like catching a flathead, well, I'm sorry. I love it. I love the fight and I love the hunt. Now, when you out there and they don't want to bite, do you change up different techniques or different tactics or different baits to try to get that fish to bite?
All of the above. All of the above. But I think the biggest, the hardest thing for anybody chasing yellowcats to establish patience that it requires. I've seen a couple of things over the last few years that it's more about patience. When a flathead gets ready to eat, you can't stop him from eating. And if he ain't ready to eat, he ain't gonna eat. And I don't think they feed real often. From the research I've done and the reading, they bite rarely. Actually, they probably only move about an hour and a half a day during the busy season. They ain't moving, they ain't eating unless you can put it in front of his face. To
So
catch him on the move, you got him.
So
Exactly.
you figure they eat heavy and then
When
lay
they eat.
around.
And then they lay around, just like me and you.
So I'm like you. I don't believe we can throw too big a baits. Do you?
There's no way, because I've tried. I've thrown all the bait I can throw, and they'll still eat.
I got a buddy here in the Carolinas. He'll throw a 14-inch crappie. I thought, I don't know if I'd put that on the hook. I believe I'd put that in the frying pan, son. But
yeah,
he loves that big crappie, big freaking wide baits.
The biggest picture it makes, and the more racket it makes, the more disturbance, the better your chance of catching that flathead.
If you got him around close.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, on occasion, they want a smaller bait. Sometimes, I think the 60-pounder I caught last year actually came on about a golf ball size piece of cut brim. Came on a head. Came on the brim head.
But dang.
Just the head of it. Yep. So occasionally, when they're real lazy, so what do you do? There's a lot of options out there when they're not biting. When I bass fish, sometimes when I got real aggravated, I just open the tackle box up and dump it in the middle of the floor of the boat and start tying different stuff on. And yellowcat fishing ain't much different than that.
There you go. Well,
I'll say they don't want a cheeseburger every day.
There you go. I want you to do me a favor, Michael and Brian. This is something I've been trying to get somebody to do for me, and I'm going to do it myself as soon as I can do it.
I tried to get those worms.
There you go.
I tried to get them. They were out. I did try, though. I was still going to try it.
It's, Michael, what I was talking about, and Brian and me and him done talked about it, is that when you're out there and you marking those fish and you know that they're cats and they just ain't hitting what you're putting in front of their face, do me a favor. Load a hook down with freaking night crawlers. Load it down with a big old wad and drop it down there and tell me if that fish takes it.
I will give it a try.
The reason I'm saying is that fish has eaten night crawlers all his life.
He ain't going to turn it down if you can get it close to it.
That's what I'm saying. I believe if you can keep the daggum little peckerheads off of it before you can get it to him, I believe they'll take it. I might be wrong, but it's worth a try.
I'll try anything. You can't imagine some of the stuff I've hung off the end of the hook.
Hey, we catfishermen, we'd tie a muskrat on him if we thought he'd eat him.
If he eat it, he gonna get one. We'll figure out how to catch muskrats.
Hey, I'll tell you what, it would not surprise me if there's been more muskrats eaten than what we know of.
Oh, I guarantee you.
Look, try one to somebody to catch it.
I will tell you a story. We were talking about how hard it is sometimes to get the fish to bite. Fall before last, I had a spot that the water, everything was perfect. The time of the year was perfect. The water temperature was about 65 degrees. Fall coming. it couldn't have been any more perfect. I slid in on the spot, turned the graph on, and it is littered, absolutely littered at the bottom of the ledge. Catfish hugging the bottom. And I knew I was in it. And I was fortunate enough, it's a really pretty place. I can put the boat on the bank. I can get the bait right to them. I fished for an hour and a half and never had as much as a wiggle. And when I reeled, I had 4 poles, and 2 of them, when I was reeling them in, I snagged 2 flatheads around 20 pounds apiece across the back. How many of them you reckon were down there to be able to snag 2 of them by accident?
That's crazy. You know, one of them days, and I'm probably going to upset some people with what I'm saying, but I think sometimes we might have to make a sacrifice for knowledge of future fishing. Been interesting to see what those fish actually had in their bellies, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I didn't cut I turned those loose.
Right. Oh, I understand that. You know what I'm saying, though.
But but I'm betting they were full.
Yeah.
I'm betting whatever was in their belly, I bet it was full of. Because if he's hungry, he gonna eat.
Put him in the live well. They're gonna puke in the live well. You'll find out.
Well, that's true. That's true.
It never fails.
Crawdad, crayfish, whatever you think. Do you think flatheads will eat them?
I think they'll eat them, but I don't have much luck with them on the tight line. I don't either. I don't have much luck. I can put them on trot line. You can put them on trot line and catch them. You know, back in the day, as kids, we run trot line.
I was asking.
You catch them just right too. You catch them 7-8 pound flatheads. Just right for the skillet. But
I think when a flathead goes on the feed, there's Miss Cam in there. I think when the flatheads are feeding, if it wiggles, it's food.
The end.
Yeah.
The end. That's it. The end.
And if his belly's full and he ain't eating, he ain't gonna bite it. I don't care what it is.
No. Now, I've got a very serious question to ask both of you. Do you think that there's such a thing as a resident fish? That this fish is going to come back to this same hole after mating, and he'll spend the rest of his days in that hole except time to go mate?
All of the literature and Mississippi State's done some studies, and a couple of other ag schools have done the studies, and they've actually radio tagged a lot of flatheads, and they have homes. Their homes change as water rises. They'll go to one, but when it comes back to that level, they're coming right back where they started out. They're gonna spawn in the same place every year, and they move, but they don't move near as much as blue cat does. And but they do definitely have their home range. There's no doubt about it. Per all the writing from all of the smart folks over there at Mississippi State.
Well,
I've had a theory that, say, a 50-pound plus fish is I ain't saying an elderly fish, because some lakes fish grow faster than the others, and it all depends on the DNA too, because not all fish will get to be 50-pound fish. But with that being said, I'm saying that these are up there in age, and they know their water's good enough that they've done picked out their home. They picked out their home where there's bait, going to be bait almost year round. There's going to be cover structure, and not far from their breeding grounds. Do you think I'm right on that way of thinking?
I think you are, and I certainly hope you are, because I got 2 from last year that worrying me to get back towards where they came from.
The reason I'm asking that is that on my home lake, we have some very, very, and I should keep my mouth shut, but guys and gals, I love y'all, and I like to share every bit of the information that I can figure out to help y'all out. Some very, very old boat docks. Some of them have collapsed. These are old. I'm talking about 50, 60, 70-year-old boat docks. Do you think Mr. Flathead might find himself a home and stuff like that
because there's always brim around it. There's always largemouth bass coming in here chasing the minnows and the brim and stuff like that. So there's always going to be food around those areas. If the water depth is there where he can be protected from cold water, wintertime, but yet be able to feed occasionally when something swims by his nose, do you think that a boat dock or some kind of structure like that over his structure would be places to target your big older fish?
Make sure you got some real heavy line on when you dip a piece of brim over in that spot.
And a good
he'll be there. He'll be there.
Because that's one thing I want to learn, because I used to be able to be good. I used to be able to skip baits with a bait caster and skip in big baits underneath that dock. Pig and jig was one of them. And I don't know if I can do it now without making a freaking mess on that bait caster. But regardless, I believe if you could skip big baits up and underneath there, live baits or cut bait, I mean, a fresh piece. Yeah, talk about that a minute, about using cut bait for flatheads.
There's a time when they want it over the other one. And when you find a bite to be slow, a lot of times it'll pick up for you when you use that cut bait. But the only time I use cut bait is when if I pull one out of a live well and cut him up right then. No sense in freezing it. It has never worked for me. He's got to be flopping when I put the knife to it.
There you go.
We've caught yellow on cut skipjack. And a lot of cut brim.
Oh, yeah. Now, what I was going to talk about a minute ago, and it slipped my mind, and I'll come back to it right now while that brain fart's rolling around over here somewhere. We was talking about before we went live about bringing fish on the boat, taking pictures, and releasing. You said most of the time under 40 pounds, you probably just pop the hook and let him go.
Yeah, try not to even take him out of the water.
The reason I'm bringing that up is that we're all maybe not you so much, but most people are on watching this show are YouTubers, Facebookers, or social media people. They want video and they want pictures. Guys and gals, the way I take a picture is I screenshot off of my video. So I don't have to stop and take time. I get that fish back in the water as quick as possible. Were you talking about if it's not picture worthy, then it never breaks the side of your boat.
Right.
Unless you get ready to take home a meal.
Put a fillet knife to it, yeah.
There you go. And I'm not going to go in too deep of what we talked about before about that. But do you feel a flathead is a fish? Let me try to phrase this right. Taking pictures and stuff like that. Most of the time, except them odd occasions where you catch them deep, do you think that flathead can deal with being handled a little bit more than what a blue cat can, as far as taking a picture and getting him back in the water, as long as you ain't keeping it out over a couple minutes?
I definitely believe that the yellow cat is more resilient, a lot tougher than the blue cat, but he's got that big, wide bottom lip.
Yeah.
That tends it to be, it has a tendency to be more fragile. And of course, the heavier the fish, the more pressure you're going to put on that bottom jaw when you hold him up. So if I'm going to hold one up for a picture, I'm going to do it with both hands. When I take him out of the water, I'm going to do it with both hands. And I use a rubber-coated, the Walmart rubber-coated work gloves.
Oh, work gloves, yeah.
They don't scratch them up, don't pull a whole lot of slime off of them. And, of course, I do that to protect myself, too.
Right.
Keep my hands from getting too scratched up.
Right.
And you just get him out of the water, get a pretty picture of him, support him by the belly and the lip and the bottom lip. Get you a couple of pictures of him, and then get you a good picture of him as he's swimming off.
Yes. And
James,
guys and gals, please don't support them with them dagger. I don't mind you using fish grips to help keep control, especially some of them freaking blue cats. And teeners and 20s, blue cats is a tough rascal to hold on to. They are fighting. Use the fish grips to control that fish, but don't suspend him by his lower jaw. That tears me out of the frame, seeing people hold them big catfish up by their jaw with those little bitty fish grips, hold on to little bitty stuff. It tears me out of the frame. What was you talking about, Brian?
Well, we started using our dip net a lot when we're on the water. We need to weigh one, you know, where we're not supporting them by the lip so much.
Right.
Just, I don't know. I don't have a sling, so that's the next best thing. So.
Now, the net I just bought, well, actually, the wife got it for me, but I went and picked it out. It's got the big, what they call a basket bottom in it, and it's fully rubberized. And I think that helps. I mean, all nets is going to pull some slime off the fish. It's just the nature of the beast. There's just, like me on a pontoon boat, I just about have to use a net for the fish over 20, 25 pounds because I can't get them up over the side without using a net. But use care. That's the main thing. Don't y'all agree, guys? Use care with these fish so they're there for our grandbabies to catch.
That's right.
Well, I mean, exactly. You got to protect it. If you're going to turn it loose and let it swim off, you really want it to live.
Right.
Yeah, we want to take some home, put them in the frying pan, but if you're going to go out there and catch and release, make sure you release a good fish.
There you go.
A little bit of extra effort, and man, we still watching poles bend over 10 years from now.
There you go. And I'm going to ask one that's probably going to be a little controversial, what I asked you earlier. Do you think that the big fish, let's say 50 pounds and over, do you think they have a limited number of hooks and boats than, say, your younger fish? Otherwise, getting a hook stuck in them, brought aboard, and then released.
Definitely more stressful on them. Takes longer to get them to the boat. They're wrapping up. They're getting beat around every kind of way, and they're only going to take so much up. It's going to take a toll at some point.
Or is there anything that you can think of? I got a few more questions, but right now we're getting close to 9 o'clock, but I ain't worried about that. I ain't worried about time unless y'all are. Are there anything that you kind of want to bear down, whether it's to kick somebody in the tail? And I ain't talking about a specific person. I'm talking about like Cam, her big thing, and I know Brian was too. Her big thing, and we won't go into a lot of detail about it. Her big thing was paylace, and that's a sore thumb on all of us, I hope. But are there anything that you really want to bear down that you think that you go ahead?
Hey, let me explain to him what a pay lake is real quick because he doesn't do social media very much.
Right.
It's where they go to our rivers and they catch our big fish and they take them back to a pond and you pay to fish, and then they do some kind of chemicals to them and to make them bite. So I mean, it's just really it's toxic.
Yeah, that's a rough subject. I'm not familiar with that. I'm gonna study that, but
right.
It'll make you mad like it does us.
I understand it is that people have to make a living, and commercial fishing has been a way of river people for a long time. But I have a serious sore spot when nets are left unattended, and illegal nets and nets that aren't put out according to the law. And I'll report that to a game warden anytime I see it. And I have no problem with a man making a living. But be right about it and do what you're supposed to do. Be responsible.
Yeah, I agreed. And I know there's probably some laws that a lot of them are abiding by. And if we don't like it, guys and gals,
then go in, learn who you need to talk to, what doors you need to knock on, and rattle some cages. That's the only way things get changed, is to rattle the cages. And have your evidence in hand. Do your homework. Don't be some willy-nilly go out there screaming, shout like the freaking left does. Have your ducks in a row before you raise your voice, so you don't look like a freaking idiot out there just blah, 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 blah. Have your ducks in a row. Have your evidence in hand with as much proof as you can before you do it. We've got too many loudmouths out there talking that have good intentions, but they can make it worse on us than actually better for us. Now, as far as flathead fishing, I'm gonna ask you a question.
Go ahead. Lay it on.
Do you still get excited when them little red bobbers take off across the water and go under?
Oh, absolutely. I brim fish more now that I'm flathead fishing than I ever did as a kid.
As long as you still get excited by that little red bobber taking off across the water, you're still a fisherman.
That's
you
right.
still
That's
have that
flathead,
true love in your heart.
Yeah, it was it's something. I mean, my daddy did it, my daddy's daddy did it, and I grew up loving it. And man, I'm going out. I hope I'm going out with a pole in my hand.
There you go. There ain't nothing wrong with that. I'm brain fart. If you was going to go to new waters that you've never fished before, what would be the first thing you do to try to find fish? Before you get to the water or after you get to the water, what is the very first thing that you do to prepare to fish brand new water?
I'm gonna look at a map for the twistiest, turningest part of the river I can find. That's the first thing I'm gonna do, and then I'm gonna go to search and cover when I get in the boat.
Let's hit up on a little bit of safety before we call it a night. What's some good safety points? And I know Cam and Brian talked a little bit about it last time. What is some good, because he told us about his incident on the water. What is some good safety advice that you would recommend anybody going to big rivers?
Lots and lots of respect at all times. Careful anchoring. There's trash coming down the river you got to look out for in front. You get an anchor hung up and you can't get it loose, cut it. The closest I ever came to getting in bad trouble was trying to pull an anchor out and let the current pull me back around over the top of the anchor. Before I knew it, it hung the prop on the boat. And I was in an 18-foot, 100-inch wide boat with a 115 on the back of it, center console aluminum boat. And as soon as that line tightened up and it was hung up around that lower unit, the back end of the boat went down. I had to go out of sight hanging on the back of the boat to get, and thank goodness I had a knife in my hand when it happened. And I was able to cut that rope loose because it'll pull that boat down. Otherwise, it's amazing. It's amazing. The river will take you and not ever think twice about it.
You know, one of the things I recommend people to do is where their anchor cleats are, glue you one of those super magnets. And when you get out on the boat and you get where you want, just throw your knife right against it and throw it up there on that magnet. So that knife is always there.
Always.
It's always there. You don't have to look for it. It's always there.
I got one on the transom of my boat and it stays there. And I knew that could happen when it happened. And by gosh, when it did, I had to take a fellow back home that was fishing with me. He couldn't stay there no more. It scared him so bad. He had to go.
Yeah. Buddy, my Wampus cat, he ain't in here tonight, so they must be running calls all night. He'll watch it later. they fish Baden Lake. But if they go all the way up Baden, it gets real narrow. So it's a river. It turns into a river, and it gets some pretty rough currents. And they got caught into a bad storm, and there was some trees come off the bank. And before he could get his anchor up, he had a full-size tree root ball to grab his front anchor rope on his 24-foot pontoon boat. And it was already dipping the front of that boat under. It was going to pull him down. It didn't matter if it was a pontoon boat. He was going down. And when they finally got the anchor rope cut, him and all that debris took off down the Daggum River. And he said that was the scariest he ever been because he was tangled up with that big old full-size tree and root ball. And I can see that on a river out there in Mississippi. I can see all kind of debris probably coming down about any time, day or night, ain't it?
Just about any time. When the fishing, yellowcat tend to bite better when the waters rise. At least they do for me. And when that water's rising, here it comes.
And here comes the trash.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But
That's
another reason I like yellowcat fishing is because I get to fish in a little bit calmer water than I did when I was fishing for bluecat.
Now, are they a certain time of the year that you might chase them up the tributaries of the river?
All the way through June, when the water hits 58 degrees, I'm going to fish every day until probably close to the end of July. And if the water's rising, they'll be in there. Maybe not as far back in some of the smaller chutes. Tributary rivers, we don't really have any tributary rivers here close in the area that I fish. But we got a bunch of chutes that run around islands. And and I'll fish those chutes pretty hard. But it does seem to slack off as water gets low. They'll back out there and they'll get towards the mouth.
Well, I'm gonna ask you one last question. Do you ever throw a float or float baits for flatheads?
I have tried it and I have not had much luck, but I'm not through.
Good. Because I got the perfect float for you, buddy.
And I bet that's going to work in your lakes under your piers.
Right. But Mr. You seen he's in here, Junior Proctor, Blue Dog Fishing. He drags bobbers in between his planer boards straight out the back, which that's something brand new to me. He put planer board clips on them. But he also uses it down on the Cooper River. And with the planer board clips, what he's using it is to do very precision placement of his baits using the floats. The floats, after what he does, he lets them baits drift back to where he knows that cover is. And he'll put the line in front of the pin instead of behind it. And then when he gets right where he wants it, he'll pop that line. And otherwise, the bobber is no longer in use. It's just sliding back and forth up and down the line. He's letting that bobber do very specific placement of his bait. Could you think that would work in the river and places out there on that river that you do hunt in flatheads?
It does, but it sounds like a whole lot of work to me. I'd have to see that done.
Right. I mean, it's just a planer clip.
He's done all the experimenting. I just need to see a video of him doing it so I don't have to do all the experimenting.
Right. I mean, it's like he said when he told me when he's coming up the river and he marks, say, a brush pile.
Mm-hmm.
He'll mark it on his depth finder. And then when he pulls up and he drops anchor or uses his trolling motor to hold him in place, one of the two, then he'll set and let that, he just clips that bobber on and clips that clip on there. It don't matter if it ain't but 2 or 3 foot down. It don't really matter because the bobber's going to slide.
Right.
And then he'll just take and let the current carry that float back to right where he thinks it needs to be. And then he'll pop that line and it pops it out from that clip. So the bobber just slides up the line and your bait drops vertical
right where
to the hole you want it.
Oh, that's getting there.
So,
and he drags baits with it. So that's it's all new to me, things that I never would have thought about.
Oh yeah, definitely new.
That's why I'm asking you about certain things, because it's new stuff to people on here also. So that's what I'm trying to share, is stuff that they don't think about. Is there anything that you want to share with them that maybe we haven't went over yet?
I can't think of anything. What we need to talk about, Brian?
Man, I don't know. Let's take a question or two real quick.
All righty.
About that.
Let's see. Dragon board, full ballers, 250 foot. I hadn't seen too many. I think because we've been covering some good information. Let's see.
Yeah,
Papa said
he's
Go
pretty
ahead.
informative. He doesn't joke around like Cam does.
She's a little high strung, ain't she?
Woo.
Yeah, she was great on the show. She was absolutely great on the show.
Hey, they both was. I had a blast. When we need Brim, here's Cam right now. We get all 7 of the grandbabies together. There you go. That's the way to get it.
Yeah, man,
Hey,
we got
kids.
a 250-gallon live well at the house set up with a bubbler in it, or double bubbles. And when we get ready, we just take them all, fill them up, bring them back, throw them in the
There
live
you
well.
go. Oh, them grandbabies, if you can keep them on biting fish, they have the time of their life. Now, am I right that y'all don't have the white perch in that river?
I've never
It looks
seen
like
it.
it looks like a white bass, but it's a smaller fish.
No.
Well,
I would love to have some of them.
we got so many heavy schools out here, it's unreal. Especially on Wally, we don't have striper on Wally. There might be 1 or 2 that somebody's cut loose in there, but we think
Right.
we needs a fast predator to help keep them under control. You can come across them things in the stream that look like spaghetti. There'll be so freaking many of them. It's crazy.
That sounds like easy bait fishing to me.
Oh, these guys. Oh, yeah. Drop a sabiki down, getting 5, 6, 7 at a time. I've been wanting to tie 2 sabiki rigs together and drop down and see if I can load that rascal
You're a
up.
glutton. You're a glutton for punishment. That's what you are.
Them little bitty hooks that tear your tail up, won't they?
Oh man, and it gets tangled up so easy. Hey, Muskrat wants to know: do you mark fish or just fish cover?
I do mark fish. I look for fish in general most of the time, but I'm always looking for something that's bigger than anything I've ever seen before. So yeah, occasionally I will mark fish.
Now, I'll take it that you're like me. If you're by yourself and you don't have people on the boat, you're head hunting. You're looking for that
Period.
one fish.
That one bite. That's it.
I don't care if I got people on the boat. I'm looking for that one fish.
Yeah. I mean, if I got kids or whatever, then I'm gonna put them on biting fish, But if it's like Wampus Cat, me and Justin, we done know that that's what we're hunting, is that one bite.
I got big bait. I got big hooks, and that's all I'm hunting. That's it. And
What kind of hooks
days-
do you throw?
Well, I'm a bit controversial on the hook situation because I've had a lot of luck with the Eagle Claw 10-aught Kale, and I've had no more bad hooks on that than I have with a circle hook.
Kale's been used for many a freaking year before circle hooks ever come out.
And I use a 10-aught, and when I feel meat on the end of that 10-aught, I feel like he's coming to the house.
So you don't mind. And one thing about a Kale hook, you can still part his eyeballs, can't you?
You sure can.
Yeah,
And I have to be able to snatch. I can't stand it.
I miss that so bad using circle hooks because I want to put some daggum bend in that rod and some ass behind it. Excuse my language, people, but I do. I miss that hook set.
I'll J-hook one in a minute when I'm using the Kale hook. And my favorite hook, he loves a Eagle Claw, and I'm a Hooker's Mad Catter, of course. But yeah,
Hey, I like
and it's really, really close to the Eagle Claw, but
yeah. I like that Mad Catter, but that's a thick freaking hook, son.
Well, the HD's not so bad.
I'm gonna have to check into that.
It's a much better hook.
I won some a couple years ago on Catfish Weekly, and I've caught fish. I don't have no more because I've hung them up and lost them in the bottom of the lake. But I've never had one to penetrate all the way through. But I had one that buried up past the second set of barbs on that rascal, and you about can't get that hook out of his mouth. But the ones that didn't even penetrate that deep, they couldn't get rid of the hook as long as you kept tension on that line. I'll give them that. The angle of that hook, they can't get rid of it. They can't get rid of it. And it's shaped just about like a tail hook.
Hey, Creole wants to know, do we use a double hook rig on bigger baits?
That was my next question.
I absolutely do. I absolutely will snail 2 hooks on in a heartbeat.
Yeah, if I'm gonna fish big baits, I'm fishing 2.
When he's over a foot long, he's probably gonna have 2 hooks hanging out of it.
And even on real big cut baits, a lot of times instead of actually tying a second hook on, I got some big trebles I carry in my tackle pack. And I'll slide a rubber worm over the eye of that thing and then take my other hook and run through it and pull it through there.
A trailer, like a bass trailer.
I call them a stinger hook.
That's what it is.
Yep. And that stinger hook will save your tail a lot of times, guys.
It'll hold.
Because you can't roll all the hooks into the bait.
No.
Now, do you believe that and I know I don't want to hold y'all up much longer. Do you believe that there's times when a flathead will just mouth the bait and really never want to take it? Because you see them slow bites on flatheads. Now, I've had good pull downs by flatheads, but I think it's because I wasn't watching the rod. I was busy doing something else and he done got the hook buried. But do you think, because there's times when that flathead will just hold it? Because I've caught, I couldn't tell you how many flatheads when I went to reel the rods in to move, and he was laying down there with the bait in his mouth.
I think it's a general mood of the fish, probably weather related, pressure related, but they always seem to bite the same all day long. If they're murdering it, they murder it. If they mouthing it, they mouth it. I had a young man with me in the boat 4 or 5 years ago, and I took an inside pole and I threw it up in about 2 foot of water next to a stump. He said, "There ain't much water around that stump, Mr. Murphy." And I said, "No, it's not." I said, "But we got 4 poles out, so we're going to give it a go." And it didn't any more hit the water than that pole started bouncing, just ever so lightly. And then it stopped. And he said, "Well, I guess maybe that was that big bait you had on there, Mr. Murphy." I said, "It might have been." About 10 minutes later, I look over at him and he said, "What happened to that pole?" I look down and the line had gone slack and the fish had it under the boat in the shade. Never saw it bump again. But he had picked it up and was under the boat in the shade. I didn't really know exactly what to do because it wasn't about 7 foot of water under the boat. So I reeled down snug and gave him a pull. And of course, my drag was locked down all the way and almost went in with the fish. Fish almost won that battle. He had me on my belly.
Dang right.
That's what it's all about to me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I bet that young man was just tickled. You couldn't wipe the grin off his face, could you?
Oh, either one of ours.
Yeah, see it, both of you.
He laughed at me a while.
Yeah, I got a question for Mike. When you see that rod, just do that right there. Do you still get that gut, that big deer walked out of the woods look?
I can't stand it. It drives me crazy. That's why I still do it. I can't wait. I got a friend that has never. I don't think she can wrap her mind around what I do out there on the river to catch these big catfish. And I can't wait to see her face. One of those rods that looks like a pool cue bends over double out the back of the boat, and I tell her to get
And they can't hardly get it out of the stand. They fighting just to get the rod and reel out of the stand.
Oh, I'm guessing she might run for the front boat on the first.
But
I can't wait to see
that's
the look
what
in the eye,
drives me
because if it makes
crazy.
her feel like, oh
That's
yeah,
it right there. I got chill bumps when you did that.
Yeah, it's
hey, it's
you
coming
know,
close too. It's gonna happen soon.
either it's a dink that's messing with the bait and he can't even bite onto it, or that flathead's getting ready to put some steel in his jaw.
Yep, I love for it just to lay over just a little bit and just sit there, and you know he's just holding it and has no earthly idea that he's tied to me.
I've heard this said a couple different ways, and I'll let this be the last question, or not real kind of a statement that you can actually come into. Does that flathead suck that whole bait in with one gulp, or does he come up on it and kind of? What do you think?
I think again that's a mood thing.
Yeah.
I think sometimes they attack it, and sometimes they're just mad at it, want to kill it, and we'll sit there and mouth on it. And man, that's the oddest biting fish, and the hardest fish to get a good hookup on that I've ever fished. There ain't no question about that.
Yeah, I've got to say that's some of the daggum. You get the fish in, you thought, how did I even get that fish in? That wasn't that good a hookup. But, you know, how did I even get him to the boat? And it's probably because you never let no slack get in the line. But truth be known, but you're right. That is because that's where patience come in. When you first start seeing that little,
you got to let him hold on to it.
Yeah, you want to run up there, you want to start doing something.
Yep.
But
especially if you hadn't been in a while.
Down. Say what?
Especially if you hadn't been in a while.
Yes. Best to just sit back down, open up your Coca-Cola or your tea or whatever, take you a drink, and let him do what he's going to do. What's the longest you'll wait before you'll actually try to see what he's doing when you first start seeing that bite?
It all depends on how early in the fishing season it is and how antsy I am.
Right.
that first one that starts out, I'm probably gonna put that pole in my hand just so I can feel him pulling on it.
There you go.
There you got a prayer.
Yeah.
A lot of sometimes because I use fairly heavy weights being in the Mississippi River and the size bait that I use just to keep it down. Sometimes I can take some tension off of it just by giving him just a little bit of slack, and he'll swim off with it. And then, of course, being a tail hook fisherman, I cross his eyes.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. A lot of times I'll pull slack in my line first before I ever touch the rod. And then where I can get the rod up out without bothering that line. And then I'll reel down to it and I'll finger touch that line and feel it. And if I can feel that you can tell when he's down there on it a lot of times, then I'm like you. I'll give him some slack and I'll let him once he pulls that slack out of my line, I think he's got it good enough on it in his mouth. Yeah, I'll part his eyeballs.
And sometimes he's there and sometimes he ain't.
Yep. Nope. Because I reeled them in before, and it's like they never even touched a hook. It's just like they grabbed a portion of the bait.
Mm-hmm.
And I usually found that's in real early spring or real late fall when that water temperature is starting to drop hard.
Probably a good time to put some cut bait on when they're doing that.
Yeah. When you see the scales off the tails gone and not off the rest of him.
Yeah, downsize.
Yeah.
Or just upside.
Well, Mike and Brian, Michael, we'll do this again. Make sure you share up some pictures. I know, Brian, if you catch a couple monsters, send them to Brian. Let's post them up on my Facebook page if you don't mind. You got a lot of veterans that they don't really social media, but they are kin to me or friends, and they come on there and they use us to remember the days of fishing. So if you don't mind, share a little bit for our veterans and our kids too. Got a lot of grandbabies that watch them. Share a few with us if you don't mind, Michael.
Man, we'll do, Patriot James. I enjoyed being here. Appreciate you having me.
We'll do it again, I'm sure. I know we'll have Brian and Cam on here again. They was fun, very entertaining. Yeah, we definitely want to do this again. And before we go, say God bless America, guys and gals. Come here, check out Brian and Cam on their channels. Michael, you're just going to have to ride out and see him on the Mississippi if you want to see him on a social media. That's his social media out there.
That's my social media.
There you go.
He's social distance.
There is social distance. That's exactly right. Agreed. 100%. Guys, I had a blast. We'll do this again. Give me 1 second. Let me shut this down, and I'll speak to you when we get through. Guys and gals, thank you for coming in to Patriot James' show. Make sure you share this up. Hit the like button. God bless you. God bless your families. And we'll see you on the water. Say bye.